All right. I know we'll have people joining us as I hear the dinging that people are arriving, but welcome to the Curriculum Instruction Student Life Subcommittee meeting. It's Wednesday, May 6th, and we are broadcasting this meeting remote locations via Zoom. I have a few housekeeping issues just to mention. First, that this is being recorded via the Zoom application as well as BevCam. They're recording and streaming on their YouTube channel and broadcasting on Channel 99. I'd also just like to make note that per Governor Baker's March 12th order, he has suspended the open meeting law and we are able to meet virtually without a quorum or the chair physically present. And let's see. I also just want to remind people that the chat room option that you see on the bottom of the screen is something that is visible to the entire meeting and is recorded and made part of the official meeting records. So if you could refrain from using that if you just need to send a private message. And I want to just make note before we go into the pledge that on our agendas, if you look, we are going to swap number 4 with number 5. So we're going to do number 5 before 4. I'd like to, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mrs. Abel, would you mind leading us in that?
Sure thing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Our first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from March 4th. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of March 4th.
Thank you, Mrs. Abel. And a second?
I second.
Okay, great. And was that?
Elise.
Oh, okay, thank you. And that's actually one other thing that I want to just mention before we move forward with this is that unfortunately I can't see everyone on the screen. Mrs. Abel and Dr. Flaherty are helping me identify, but if you do want to speak up or comment or have a question and you don't, we're not acknowledging your raised hand on the screen, just feel free to announce yourself and speak up, and we'll get to you that way. So we have a motion to approve the minutes from May 4th, and a second. All those in favor, and we have to do a roll call vote. Is that correct, Mrs. Abel?
It is, yes.
Okay. So I will let Laura, do you want to do the roll call?
I can do the roll call if you'd like.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let me just get my list here. Okay, Ms. Abel?
Yes.
Ms. Ferretti?
Yes.
Mr. Milady?
Yes.
Let's see. Sorry, I apologize if these people are on the committee or not. Mr. Conant?
Yes.
Dr. Flaherty?
Yes.
Great. And then do I need to go through all the representatives as well?
I believe we do the representatives, correct, Mrs. Abel?
Yeah. Yes, we do.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, great.
It will help with the roll call as well. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So, no, it will help with our roll call for who's attending because I'm not sure that everyone will see everyone's face. So it'll let us all know who's with us. So
perfect.
Go ahead.
Okay. Ms. McGuire? Ms. Hildreth?
Here.
Cool. Ms. Sudak?
Here.
All right. Yes. Ms. Quintino? Mr. Burns? Okay. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Diagni?
Here.
Okay, great. And Ms. Kirsten?
Here.
Okay, so yes. So that was
yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh,
so
yes.
Motion passed. Do we have a total on that?
I'm sorry. My apologies.
That's okay.
No, I'm like looking through the list and also looking on the participants as well.
I know this is something I didn't think of.
Yeah, I think it's 8-0. I think.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
It's our only voting item of the night, so.
It's the only vote of the night. We're clear.
All right.
Motion passes 8-0. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. All right. And the next, I'm going to turn this over to Dot, where she's going to talk about the vocal ensemble.
You. And I do just have a few things I'd like to read to kind of set up the evening for us. I think we're in for a very exciting and information-filled night. But first, I'd like to start before I introduce the song to you and just kind of review in the last week. We have celebrated National Principals Day last Friday. This is Teacher Appreciation Week. It's also Nurses Appreciation Week. Governor Baker had declared May 1st as School Lunch Hero Day. And I think we should add in a day and some recognition for all of our other employees that are helping to make what we're doing remotely successful, which include our bus drivers, our clerical staff, and all of the cleaning that the custodians have been doing to make sure our buildings stay safe. I can't tell you how many times in the past 7 weeks my eyes have filled with tears as I burst with pride and awe at a project, a video, a parent forum, a morning meeting that our staff or students have created. And I've said repeatedly that the effort and the creativity that our teachers are utilizing is awesome. But the compassion and love for each other and for their students has been nothing short of amazing. I think you'll burst with the same level of pride as you listen and watch each of our presentations tonight. We will also address the challenges, however, because everything has not been easy. And with each school has been doing to mitigate those challenges along the way. This is not easy work for teachers, and it certainly has been a strain on families and on students as well. I love Dr. Trochek's quote in her most recent communication that said, "It's one thing for us to work to welcome you into our schools during the school year, but has been quite another for you to welcome us into your homes on a daily basis." Tonight, I think you'll see that we could go on for hours talking about all the work that has been accomplished in weeks, but we have tried to just do a cohesive overview. Each of the principals will be speaking for about 6 minutes or so, and we'll answer questions at the end. And you may only see some clips from videos because if we played everything in its entirety, we would be here for 4 or 5 hours. So if there's any video that you see that piques your interest and you'd like to see the entire thing, please let us know and we'll make sure that we get the link for you. So to introduce our first example of student work, I'd like to show you a clip that was sent to me by Lynn Polanin from the high school vocal ensemble. And I was just so excited with their song choice, which is Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I think it is kind of a nice highlight of the work that has been happening. And when we finish, we hope that you feel like what you've seen tonight might show you a little bit of the rainbow that's been over Beverly for the last 7 weeks. I'm not going to play the entire song, but I will show you, let you listen to about a minute or so of it. There is some distortion as it goes across Zoom, so that's why in your agendas, each person has the link directly if you'd like to listen to the whole song after the fact. It doesn't sound like this one. I can't see the.
Just trying to see next year.
So we will make sure that the link is available on the website as well, because the replaying twice over really distorted some of the sound quality, and the work is amazing. When you look at each of those squares, what they've done is they're each performing individually in their own homes, and then it was pieced together into one cohesive piece, which was just beautiful. So we thank them for their work and the direction from Ms. Polanin as well.
Yeah, from what I could hear, it was beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
And so now we want to continue with hearing from student voice, and I think three of our four student representatives are with us this evening. And so we'd like to start by hearing a little bit of their reflections. We asked them to think about a reflection about how their remote learning has been going and to share that with you. And I'm going to start with Kaylee, who is one of our 8th grade representatives.
Is Kaylee with us?
I think she's here. Kaylee, are you with us?
I don't, Dr. Flaherty, I don't see her in the list of people right now.
Okay. I think Elise is with us, so we'll move on to our high school rep.
Yes. So remote learning has been going pretty well, I'd say, for the most part. I think that there's definitely, as there's going to be with such a big adjustment like this, for students, teachers, and administration and everyone to try to figure out what's going on and what's the best way to do things for the first time of dealing with a situation like this. I think, so there has been ups and downs, you know, like with specific classes and teachers doing things differently. I know that a lot of students have or had trouble in the beginning managing when all of their teachers had several different methods and everyone was still trying to figure things out. But I think that as time went on, it improved and everyone kind of learned how to handle things. And I think that overall, the remote learning has really showed everyone how much effort that teachers are really putting in to try to continue as best we can in these difficult times. So I think overall it's going well for me.
Thank you. That sounds good. Do we have one of our other students?
Ibrahim, I believe, is.
Oh, am I on?
Hello, you are.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I completely agree with everything Elise said. Early on, it was a bit of a rough transition, but overall, we kind of got into that rhythm in which assignments were posted in a timely manner. And a lot of teachers made the effort to make sure to, notify us of any things we need for our AP courses, for example, since the tests are online, and where we can go to get more help on some of the assignments that we're doing. But overall, it was a pretty good transition. And I made a suggestion: if this continues to happen, maybe for next year, we could utilize resources like Edpuzzle, which allows teachers to post videos online, and then there's accompanying questions. It kind of makes it a lot more immersive in that respect.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And although Kaylee isn't with us, I do have her written reflections. So I'll give you an overview of what she wanted to share with the committee. She wrote that her online learning experience is something new for everyone, that it's been around 50 days that we've been in quarantine. And I think that we now are at a comfortable place. The things that she really liked was how her teachers assign her something and they explain it to her, and then she can do it and turn it in and get reflections. If she has questions, she can email them and has heard back in less than an hour if she needed help. She's still a little confused with the global app board, which we've worked with the administration on how to explain that to students. And not so much she loves the board, but filling in the Google form. And then she talks about wanting to know how things are going to be graded, which I think you'll also hear about within the next few days. That is unfolding, and the administrations at both the middle school and the high school have a good plan that will be being rolled out very shortly. We were waiting to get some guidance from the commissioner on that, and so now we'll be ready to share that within the next few days.
Great, thank you. And Dr. Flaherty, do you want to roll into the commissioner's updates?
Yes. So this was just kind of lots of clip art, and we're getting sent lots of things virtually. And this kind of really depicts, I think, a lot of what the last 7 weeks has meant. And we have our laptop, but more importantly, we have a lot of heart and a lot of communication that's going on. So this just was a slide to kind of set up all of the multiple things that have been happening within the last 7 weeks that you'll hear about. So we're, for Beverly, we're calling this phase 4, but for the for the commissioner's guidance, it was called phase 3. And so this was sent out a week ago, and it built on the initial guidance that was sent out on March 26th. And it really has two major underpinnings. The first was that to move past just enrichment and deeper learning of current standards, and that now he is recommending that elements of a quality remote learning program include focus on teaching the content standards that they came out with. They called them power standards, where they limited the amount of standards from math, science, social studies, and English to some key core content that they think are the most important to ensure that students are prepared and ready to find success at their next grade level. I just want to show you what they look like. I'm not going to go into them individually because I know you will hear from them about them in the principal's presentations as well. But the document was sent out. This is 34 pages, and it covers grades K through 5. They went through each of the grade levels individually, and it addresses reading, English, reading, language arts, math, science, and social studies. And then we also have a second document that looks at grades 6 through 12. And again, they went through the same for each grade level, and they whittled down 2 to 3, in some cases 4, but really I don't think it goes more than 4, content standards that are critical to make sure that students are prepared to be successful at the next grade level, which will also be helpful for us as we're looking at any benchmark assessments or diagnostic assessments in the fall to help close any unfinished learning that students may have based on the closure. And from the very beginning, one of the things that the commissioner has said is the most important thing that we're doing is student engagement and connections with students. And that continued in the latest phase of guidance, which was to encourage districts to move all students towards successful engagement in remote learning with a focus on addressing these fundamental skills. They also identified 4 key elements for a strong remote learning program, which is to prioritize meaningful connections with educators and peers, to provide engaging core instruction focused on the content standards most critical for student success in the next grade, offer opportunities for enrichment, exercise, and play, and to ensure that program is accessible and communication is streamlined for students and families. And I think you heard that from our students as well, that was probably one of the biggest hurdles we had, because how do you communicate in an organized way when everybody's doing it from a different location? I think we've made a lot of strides in that area, and I think there's also part of the area that we'll work on to continue to improve as we look at the chances of having to do intermittent remote learning next year as well, based on when a vaccine or a treatment becomes available for the virus. You've heard also from the students, and I will tell you that one of the hurdles that people are talking about across the state are the grading, and talking about how do we keep students engaged when there isn't a grade, or they don't know how they're going to be held accountable for the work that they're doing. I would say that this increases as a concern the higher up in the grades that you go. Upper 7 through 12 has been a bigger concern for students about how they're going to be graded or what it will mean to their overall grade. I think that we talked about how it has also highlighted, not just for Beverly, but across probably the nation, because this is not an uncommon concern, is how we really need to focus and try to get back to that growth mindset that we talk about often, and to really build the intrinsic value of learning for learning's sake, and not necessarily just for what it will mean to grades. And the recommendation from the commissioner has been that for students based on just remote learning, that no students should be held back, that we will be working actively to make sure that we close any unfinished learning for students, but that they should be moved to the next grade level. But that does not mean that if you were failing, or there was concerns about whether you were ready to be promoted prior to the closure, that couldn't still be a conversation between teachers, principals, and parents moving forward. This I just took as a screenshot to show you the immense number of meetings that are happening throughout the every day. And these are team meetings, planning meetings, grade level team meetings where their teachers are planning collaboratively. It's meetings with faculty, it's meetings with parents. You can see that the day is quite filled. And I just thought that this would give you a nice visual of all of the activity and planning and communication that's happening throughout the week. Now we're going to move over into each of the school presentations, and each presenter will be sharing their screen so that they can manipulate their own slides. But if they need me to put this back up, I can. So I'm going to first introduce Mrs. Spolansky to talk about the preschool.
Okay. Thank you and good evening.
And I have stopped sharing so that the next person can put theirs up.
Okay. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay, great.
Yes.
So thank you. Thanks, Dot. Thank you for having me. So I'm going to give an overview of what remote learning looks like at the preschool level. So like the other schools in the district, the preschool has a website that is linked to our Beverly Keeps Learning website. And on our website, we have pages for each of our teachers and therapists, which provide all of the information for their specific class or domain. And so each of those pages contains a variety of remote learning activities, which fall into two different categories. The first category is supports and resources. And this includes all sorts of things, including instructional videos for parents, opportunities for office hours where parents can sign up to speak to their student's teacher or to the team of teachers and therapists to ask questions. We have a plethora of websites and apps that can be used to support student learning. And then we also have recommended activities, projects, games, and books to support the learning at home. The second category of supports is instruction and services. And at the preschool level, the instruction is really focused on building those foundational developmental skills that impact academic readiness down the road. And so those include things like language development, motor development, both fine motor and gross motor, social skills development, regulation of attention, regulation of behavior, and understanding of basic concepts. And so to address all these different areas, we are providing a variety of services. The first of which is recorded lessons. And these are provided by the teachers and the related therapy staff. And they include activities such as read-alouds, motor and language activities, which are aligned to the students' individual needs and goals on their IEP. Lively letters instruction, science experiments, math, music, and morning meeting. We also are offering some interactive morning meetings and therapies where students sign on to Google Meets and have an opportunity to interact with their peers and with their teachers. And then we also are providing some direct consultation to parents around the needs of their child. Okay, so here are some examples of what the schedules look like at the preschool level. And so the schedules are aligned to the needs of the students. And at the preschool level, we have 3 different levels of programming. We have an integrated program where students, we have a mix of peers and special education students with up to 15 students in a class. We have an intensive integrated program where we have part of the day where special education students are receiving more intensive instruction, and then they're joined by peers for part of the day. And then we have an intensive model which meets the needs of students with more severe needs and does not include peer models. And so the schedules that we provided in the preschool are aligned with each of those programs. And you can see, these examples are broken down by day and have a variety of different activities, including the teacher reading stories aloud, follow-up activities such as sorting or counting, a variety of different activities by our related service providers, our speech language pathologists, and our OTs and PTs. The example on the right shows a variety of different options broken down by area. So we've got math and alphabet, writing and movement, and arts and crafts. And so this gives parents, a menu of options and suggestions about how to structure the learning for their student. In terms of successes and challenges, one of our greatest successes has been the opportunity for increased collaboration with parents to support facilitation and generalization of language and motor development. And so, our students obviously spend much more time at home, even, under typical circumstances, because our preschool programs are shorter. They're generally 3-hour programs or up to 5 hours. And so it's really important that parents know how to facilitate development of language and motor skills and all the other foundational skills. And so we always collaborate closely with them, but I think this has provided an opportunity for even more ongoing and intensive collaboration with parents, which will hopefully really support the outcomes for our students. We've also had a lot of success with recorded lessons and therapies. This provides an opportunity for families to access the instruction more readily. They can, watch lessons when it's convenient for them. They can watch lessons multiple times. And it's also really helpful for our teachers to be able to deliver instruction more effectively because they can use the same lesson across different groups of students and can reach larger groups of students with the same instruction. So we've had a lot of really positive feedback about our recorded lessons. We've also had a lot of positive feedback about the use of our Lively Letters program. So this is a program that addresses phonemic awareness skills, phonics, and sound production. And all of these areas impact the development of later reading skills. And it's a really engaging program where letters are matched up with corresponding characters and corresponding songs, and kids find it to be really, really engaging. And so we've been able to continue to roll out and move forward with our Lively Letters programming, and students and families have been really enthusiastic about that. Excuse me. In terms of challenges, navigating the virtual world and virtual interactions can be a little bit challenging for some of our students. Again, at the preschool level, we're dealing with students who are our youngest learners, our 3- and 4-year-olds, and so it can be a little bit challenging to navigate the virtual interactions, especially for students who may have, difficulty with regulating attention and with social skills. It can be hard to interact within that world. So for some students, it just hasn't been the best format, and the recorded lessons have been more effective. We've had some challenges with meeting the scheduling needs of families. What works for one family might not work for another family. And so coordinating the schedules for classes that have 15 students can be a little bit challenging, which again is why the recorded lessons have been so effective. And then finally, we've had some difficulty with consistent engagement. And this has not been due primarily to issues with technology or internet or anything like that. I think it's much more just managing the demands of parents who are working and who have other little ones at home, and having to balance the demands of home and family with meeting the educational needs of their students. And it's a challenging time for families. And so I think we've had some difficulty with engagement for that reason. So, but in general, it's been a really positive experience, and we've had a lot of positive feedback from our families.
Thank you, Bethany.
Thank you, Bethany. And now Dr. Lay will present for AIRS.
Thanks, Dr. Flaherty. I'm going to share my screen. All right. So AIRS has responsibly engaged nearly all 420 students since March 13th. And throughout the 3 phases put forth by DESE, much of our success is attributed to the caliber of instructional practices already in place prior to our school closing, along with the organizational structures and systems that were seamlessly transferred to an online platform. Our grade level team meetings and faculty meetings were already in place prior to phase 1, and these routine practices allowed us to check in with one another, take good care of one another in terms of health and wellness plan to. So just want to show this planning doc that I think Dr. Flaherty had content standards, and this is a pretty amazing doc that our teachers are starting to work from and intently now as we analyze the prerequisite content standards, all while maintaining eye on social emotional well-being of not only our students but our AIRS families as a whole community. And so this document really starts at what we taught, what do we need to teach, what do we need to make some effort on, more emphasis. Next up are sample schedules, and perfected, I would say, over time. Our students have engaged in choice boards, and they're now in their 2nd and 3rd generation. After surveying families, teams adjusted their boards to reflect gentle structures, student learning roadmaps, and essential play. And you can see from 3rd grade choice board that they plan for thematic days such as National Superhero Day, National Raisin Day, where there's a connectedness to tasks assigned. There are time frames to follow, and each of the specialists also contribute to the board for one-stop shopping. Kindergarten also has a choice board similar to 3rd and other grade levels, and they provided students and families a time frame as well for tech-based learning tools such as ST Math and Lexia. And just I can clear my board here to show you some more. We also have some look them as others, but they're actually tailored and individualized for students who really require a bit more structure. And then we've also worked with families that have multiple children in the home and maybe sharing devices and how they can create a daily schedule so that that works for families. So reaching some family school closure has been one of our greatest challenges, and this has been a team effort in terms of outreach. We've had a 3-tiered approach, those out of reach, hard to reach, and within reach. And each has required a different approach where our adjustment counselors, special ed teachers, L teachers, classroom teachers, school nurse, and myself have engaged in communication in every means possible: email, text, phone calls, and in some cases, Google Meets. One of the factors we've been hypervigilant about has been the need to balance the well-being of our families and the demand of remote learning. We've been able to celebrate many successes through one-to-one contact, providing school electronic devices, coordinating with local establishments to feed some of our more vulnerable families, and help them navigate their way through remote learning in ways that work for them. And I cannot say enough about the steep learning curve our teachers have pushed through with grace and tenacity, not only balancing the care of their own families at home while working, but also embracing new technology with such exuberance. Many have decided to attend the virtual Get Your Teach On workshop in June, where they'll sure to collect up more enthusiasm and boost their skills. We wonder what the future of education will look like, and feel that this sense of urgency to learn new things can revolutionize our practice post-COVID-19. Our art, STEAM, music, and PE teachers have coordinated their craft to complement each of the classrooms' morning meetings because they are such a staple of our AIRS community, continue to be a routine way to maintain structure and connections and establish the norms of online learning environments. And our teachers have found innovative and creative ways to remain connected. And as you can see from these photographs, one is visiting a house for a birthday, and another is a video that you will have access to. I won't stop here to play that, but it's one of our teachers that put herself out in front of AIRS and video herself, and then put all her children from photographs through the year in this segment. I will show you that our faculty create a virtual car parade, and this was really fun to do, and we sent that out to our families not too long ago, so it's going to give me trouble, so I'm going to go back for the sake of time, but please take a look at that. It was a lot of fun to create and a lot of fun to share with our families. So this PE choice board is one of my favorites. It's significant in that our specialists are able to integrate wellness by offering choices such as mindfulness, yoga, breathing techniques, and physical challenges that are tiered for all skill levels. And each of the links has a deeper path that brings students to videos of the phys ed teacher where she explains the game, encourages participation, and makes connections to work. Students have prepared through art by adding a physical component. So this cross-discipline approach is really a hit with the kids. And finally, this PBL Animal Study is a second grade study that yielded a lot of creativity. It was rolled out in a methodical way where students were given the opportunity to tour the San Diego and Cincinnati zoos, and they engaged in a more in-depth exploration of any given animal there. And they then explained their research and applied that new learning through a myriad of choices and creative expression. And this process really follows everything we know about UDL. And I'd like to end my part by showing you this student's presentation, which I adore, and I hope you will too. There we go.
Hi tigers have special eyes so they can see in the dark. The average tiger is 100 inches long. And when we measured me, I was only 57 inches long. The tiger's almost half my size. Oops, I meant the tiger's twice my size. Tigers can eat more than 90 pounds of food in one sitting. Sometimes tigers attack people, but it's very rare. Tigers have stripes. Even when you shave them, their stripes are like a fingerprint. At the start of this project, I didn't know where tigers lived. Now I know that they live in India and China. Before this project, I didn't know how many teeth tigers had. But now I know that they have 30 teeth. And they're the biggest teeth of all cats. Tigers are endangered, and there's less than 4,000 in the whole world. Some tigers can have claws up to 4 inches long. Now that I've done this project, I like tigers even more. The best animal of all.
Thank you, Dr. Lay. And if you get a chance to watch that parade video, it is hysterical.
Thank you.
Great.
And now Julie Smith will present for Centerville.
Dr. Lay, are you staying on as our screen, Jay, still? Or should I just?
You betcha.
Okay.
Here you go.
Awesome, thank you. So good evening, everyone. I want to say, I think when we're thinking about the elementary principals presenting together, one of the nicest things is that while we're working so much further from one another, I actually think that we have worked really closely together through this. And so I feel like you're going to hear us say a lot of the same things. And I was really trying to avoid that because you can pretty much say ditto, ditto, ditto across the schools for some of the challenges. So I'll try not to do that to you all, but we all are sort of in the same boat with a lot of these things. I'll just share with you at the beginnings of our mindset at Centerville that we had talked about taking our guidance from the state and from the district, because when you are working remotely, we sort of needed some norms and a way that we were going to approach this work if we weren't going to be with each other, on a day-to-day basis. And so, those are listed too. I don't necessarily need to read through them, but just remember that we're keeping our student and family well-being sort of at the forefront of what's going on. All right, where did they? Okay, here we go. And, secondly, an experimental mindset. We were in this new place, and I think we just wanted to make sure that we were keeping ourselves open to learning new ways of doing things and thinking about engaging students from, being at home. PBL and inquiry obviously was a focus of our work, that our work should be creative and have great personal relevance. And, again, just making some things consistent across our core academic assignments, but then really looking at the way that we spend our time. And I know people have already mentioned that, and really developing work and curating materials that can be used anytime, can be used now, can be used years later, can be used, at different times in the day for kids to access content. Right. Thank you, Dr. Lay. What we found out from working with our families through various surveys was that choice was great. So we have a mix of choice boards for extra enrichment activities. But what we have found is, creating kind of clear weekly work checklists for families. They just wanted to know what exactly do we have to accomplish each day. And so by grade level, we tried to really siphon out clearly what we were hoping kids would accomplish to kind of stay on track with us. And that was something that parents liked. They liked to know what they could what they had to do for a day. And then they also liked some other choices for their kids to explore when they were done with that. So our challenge is the same challenge as everybody else. It is that consistent engagement piece. I think when we first jumped into this world, there was a lot of talk around internet access and devices. And I would say at this point, 7 weeks in, that's the easy part. Getting people a device is really simple, but I think that, we have a lot of challenge. And I should acknowledge before I go, like I should congratulate and acknowledge the many parents who are, bravely traveling this journey with us to learn these new skills. I think a lot of them are trying to, the learning curve was steep, and I think that is ongoing work that we do to try to counsel people on how to operate sort of in this Google world. It's not easy, and I think that we have parents in all different places with that, but I think that has been one of our greatest challenges. Obviously, there are language barriers, and there are just other issues that families are dealing with on a day-to-day basis that make consistent engagement easy, consistent, I guess. We are tracking all of that, and I feel pretty good about the high level of engagement that we have, but we're always going to worry about the kids who are not with us. We're always going to wonder where they are and what they're doing. For our successes, I just am in awe of everybody across the schools about how the teachers have really just embraced this new world and made this shift feel seamless, and are trying new things and being really open and really vulnerable. And I think that there is no greater success for me in that. And so it's so lovely that we're having this meeting during a Teacher Appreciation Week, because they have just really knocked it out of the park in my mind. And they have made this whole, challenging existence that we have right now, they've just made that so much better for me. I know that they're certainly keeping my spirits up in the work that they're doing and the way that they're doing it. And so we just hope that we're doing that for our families. And I think just because, we always try to work and see what's coming ahead, the adjustments that we've had to make along the way haven't been significant shifts. I think we're just in a really good place to keep on keeping on. And hopefully we can bring as many people along with us into June.
Thank you.
One more slide here. This is just a sampling of some of the examples of the things that kids have worked on. So I'll kind of start on the left and move clockwise. Teachers are really challenging themselves to think about how could they make this work authentic. We could push stuff out all day long, but they're really trying to figure out, in a home setting, what would be best. And so our first graders, they did Project Kindness, where their writing was about, creating projects and letters to send to Beverly Hospital to the first responders there. Up to what we found is, like, once the whole world opened up and all the possibilities of all the things that we could do and all the things that were free and available for us, we actually found that situating kids in a novel, novel-based discussions really helped them process through kind of what they were experiencing at home. So a lot of their thoughts and feelings about, remote learning and the coronavirus and what have you really came out in their journal responses and in their literature discussions. And it was a way to bound whole grade levels of kids together. And so we found that to be a valuable experience, which told us a lot about what kids were thinking, because in the first part of it, when you're working with young kids, they were excited, right? They were actually excited to not have to go to school. They were sad to miss their friends, but they were living their best life, a lot of them. And so, but this allowed us to uncover some of the other things that were on their minds. Our third graders at the time of the closure were about 2/3 of the way through a new unit that they have developed on the Revolutionary War. And kind of the lucky thing that happened is that when they went to the closure, they were just about to figure out what was happening in Beverly at the time of the Revolution. And they had already contacted Terry McFadden from the Beverly Historical Society. Well, in this remote setting, she had transitioned a lot of her content to create these videos for the kids to continue their learning. Like our third graders had to take on, they were a patriot or a loyalist. They were already sort of in character. And so they continued their journal writing from the perspective of their character. And then we're still interfacing with this content from the Historical Society, where they then, would write, compare their life, compare, modern day Beverly to Revolutionary, War Beverly. So that was a project that actually kind of was, had something really interesting, because we were able to get the video content and look at it a different way and spend a little bit more time with it. Where had we been in school, we would have had a visit, like the special visitor come, and it would not have been as rich of an experience as I think as it was here. We're really able to slow down and use the video resources. And I just, we'll finish with second grade, taking the opportunity to embark on a family heritage project, thinking that students are at home, situated in their families right now, and trying to find something that that is meaningful at this time. So I want to just congratulate my teachers, and everybody's teachers are just doing such an amazing job trying to really make a meaningful. I think in Beverly, I see it across the schools that people are doing such a great job trying to make the work meaningful for kids at this time. So thank you.
Thank you. That was great.
And I loved that the learning at Centerville, their project connected with the history of Beverly. And I think that was a great opportunity for some really, we talk about authenticity and real world connections, and that really stood out for me in that. I'm now very happy to introduce to you Mrs. Oliver to talk about the work going on at Cove.
Good evening. Just want to echo a little bit of what my colleagues have said, that there's a lot of repetitiveness in this, so I apologize for that, but it also shows that we're all working really well together and trying to have some consistency amongst the schools, which we all think is really important. I also want to just start off by saying kudos to the teachers, again, not just at Cove, but everywhere. I just think it's amazing that in a matter of days, they had remote learning up and running. And not only did they have it up and running, but they had it up and running well. And I just am in awe, like many of you are, with the work that they've done and the skills that they have learned in such a short amount of time. And I feel like we were in pretty good shape at the building that I'm currently at. We had a lot of technology background. We were doing a lot of collaboration, and this just really brought us to a whole different level. And so it's been quite the journey. But also kudos to our families too, because I just want to acknowledge, like others have, that this is really challenging for some families, and also challenging for some of our teachers who are trying to teach full time and do all of this planning and meet with students, and then also have their own children that they're also trying to teach. So I just want to acknowledge the difficulty in that. We started off with the 4 different phases, as Dr. Flaherty already explained. And in phase 1 and 2, we had our website up and running, and we were looking at enrichment, and teachers were really trying to figure out, if they weren't already using Google Classroom, how to do that. That was in the lower grades. And then also Seesaw, which has been a really great platform for connecting with families, and also essential for our littles, because they're able to access work there and upload work, and they can do it via voice and not just talking. And it gives parents an opportunity to maybe get a cup of coffee for a couple minutes while their child is doing some of their schoolwork. So that's been really great. Moving on to phase 3 and 4, we have a lot happening, and I know that it's not happening again just in the building that I'm at, but in the buildings across the district. So teachers are meeting with students 2 to 3 times a week with a morning meeting, but they're also meeting at this point, they're having one-on-one meetings with students. I've had teachers reach out via FaceTime for students that weren't accessing this type of platform. They're doing individual playlists, which I'll give you an example of in a couple of minutes. Therapists are highly involved. Again, collaboration is really at a high level. Kindergarten students, teachers have created their own YouTube channel. Again, something I know others have done as well. If we want to just click on that, this is for read alouds, and it just gives you a quick example. We'll have just a second to take a look at that. If it uploads or not. That's all right. I can just speak to it. I love this platform because parents have access to it and they can keep going back and listening to stories over and over again in our kindergarten classrooms. So sorry it didn't show up. Little technical difficulties here. Okay, next page. Thank you. All right. One of the things that we were really focused on was, again, keeping the work authentic and really focusing on inquiry and trying to incorporate PBL. That's been a different challenge than doing it in person. So really inquiry was our real focus, and then that happened across grade levels from K to 4. Really trying to find a balance between screen time and non-screen activities, and trying to get families more involved with some of the work that they were doing, and a concern over having students in front of a computer all the time and trying to just find that balance. So some of the examples that I have here, you can see from teachers that there's a combination of both being on screen time and being active outside or within their homes. So the first one is how do plants grow and change over time. This is a kindergarten choice board. If we could click on that, please. And I believe this is the same as the AIRS. It's not going to show up. Oh, here it is. Okay. The kindergarten team at AIRS and the kindergarten team at Cove has done some work together. So they have this choice board that is given each week. Here it is. And the question of the week is, how do plants grow and change over time? And you can see they have the must-dos up at the top. And then you have literacy, math, the inquiry piece with videos embedded in areas to upload to Seesaw. And they have yoga and brain pop and lots of fun activities, and it goes on down. And so they update this each week. And down at the bottom, we also embed our specialists. You can see Mrs. Colton's on here, Mrs. Lally, Mrs. McDonough for music. Thank you. Another example, this is grade 1, how maps and globes are similar and different. And there is one piece here that I want you to take a look at. So if we could click on that. At our school this year in first grade, and we did not know Canva, which is another platform, and she taught us. This is what it looks like right here. She also taught us how to use something called Go Animate. And so if we could click on Foundations, there's a video there down below under Parent Info. There it is. Just wanted to give you an idea of how we're trying to engage students on early literacy skills. And I was proud of them. I thought this was pretty cool. Hopefully it shows. Okay. So that's a little, oh, here we go. Okay. for the sake of time, if you are interested, it's something that you can go back and look at, but they teach the whole foundations level, foundations lesson through this video, and it's their voice talking over it with characters, and we've had some positive feedback on that. Okay. I'm not going to pull up the Matter choice board. It looks pretty similar. It's a grade 2 choice board where they have lots of different activities. And then the Mission Birdwatch, that was a PBL that grade 2 did. It was very interactive. Students were outside. They were taking videos of birds. They were, they had a different activity that they needed to do. It was a 9-day unit where they were very involved with being outside, scavenger hunts, things like that. In grades 3 and 4, I just want to show you an example of a playlist. This is a grade 3 playlist to give you an idea of what that looks like in the upper grades. What I do want to let you know is there's one playlist that goes out for everybody, but again, like I said at the beginning, our special ed teachers and their related service people are working with classroom teachers all the time, every day for long periods of time. And some students have their own individual playlists. So this is a master playlist here, which lets students know what they need to do throughout the day. And it's a hyperdoc, so they just need to click on where they, how to access their work here. And it's also on Google Classroom. So this is just one example. And it goes through each day. We do the whole week at the beginning of the week so that parents know what's coming. This next one is a learning checklist from grade 4 at Cove. I'll just show that really quickly. That is an example from Erin Sweeney's class, who I believe is on our call as well. And here's what it looks like for 4th grade. And they, again, give this out at the beginning of the week and then give additional, make additional connections with students throughout the week to help them. There's a lot of one-on-ones happening in the 4th grade. They have office hours. They're working through challenges that students are having, whether it's on SD Math or using Zern, or something in some of their reading activities. And to echo what Mrs. Smith said, they're also into novels, and that seems to have given them some structure. This is some examples of student work. You can see here, starting on the left, those are some students that were involved in novel engineering with Mrs. Moran, and those, they uploaded some pictures onto a Padlet. And then the next 2 pieces, again, are examples of us trying to get students away from the screen and being a little bit interactive. So you can see here we have some fraction work with Play-Doh, and they were uploading their work there. And then let's move this. Additional work over here that was screen work, a lot of writing that they were putting in on that piece. Alliteration. Okay, so successes and challenges. For the most part, students really love the video meetings and coming together. Teacher collaboration is at an all-time high, and they're really counting on one another and learning from each other, and I just can't say enough about that. Innovative learning by all teachers. Again, a bit repetitive. I said it at the beginning. I just could not be more amazed by what the work that teachers are doing. Really pleased with the personalized learning that teachers are giving to students, and that collaboration comes again with support teachers that are helping us. Using the technology, which is really around UDL, and making sure that students can access all of the work that we're putting out. So we're using Screencastify, so they're doing virtual lessons using Google Slides and then having VoiceOver to actually teach it. hyperdocs that are easy for them to go to various sites that help them with their lessons as well. Challenges is consistency of engagement, which again is repetitive across the board. I am a little bit worried about when the weather gets better, about making sure that we keep students engaged with the work that we're doing. Another challenge is loss in families, and I don't think we should overlook the fact that people have lost family members or have friends that they have lost, and that affects the work that they're doing here in trauma. And also, to echo what I heard about secondary work, accountability piece is also an issue at the elementary level. Students are wondering why they're doing what they're doing and what that might look like come report card time and etc. Again, a bit repetitive. This video here is something that we won't show all to you, but just maybe 3 seconds of it. You can watch it at a later time. And this was in 4th grade, just to kind of remind them that we're all in this together. It has music, but it's not playing. Anyway, it was some pretty upbeat music, and it's showing the kids in the 4th grade classroom. This was put on a 4th grade platform, and it was just to remind kids, like I said, that we're all in this together, and even though we're not in person here in the classroom, that we're still together via online. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Oliver. And now we're moving on to Hannah with Mrs. Montevecchi.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us all together this evening. And as all of the elementary principals before me have already said, we are at a very high level of collaboration. So there is no denying there are some amazing overlaps, and we are all tremendously proud of that. I am right there with everyone in saying that we have been tightly knit always as a school community, but this entire experience has brought our team even more closely together. And I mean that as a leadership team of our school community. And from the very beginning, and when we found out we were going to be closed for quite a while, I think Beverly was uniquely poised to really get remote learning up and running well, because our teachers were already so savvy with so many of the platforms that were going to make this more accessible for all of our students. So I am tremendously grateful for the leadership that laid the groundwork for that, and for the unflinching attitude of all of our teachers in Beverly who just dove right in from the get-go. From the beginning, we have been emphasizing to all of our families that their health and well-being is our top priority. We are supporting all of the learning at Hannah with a Google Classroom at every grade level. We made that choice early on, that rather than having teachers setting up individual classrooms, it would be most efficient for everyone to work in a team atmosphere, so that parents quickly understood that anything being posted by any given teacher in a team was accessible for every student. Every classroom teacher is providing 2 to 3 live class meetings a week, and many teachers are also offering small group sessions, lots of individual sessions happening as well for students, and lots of individual sessions as needed for parents to help be sure that we clarify expectations and also are managing any technology challenges that they are facing. As all of my colleagues have said, we want to be sure to balance online and offline learning experiences. We would never in a given day sit any one of your children down at the elementary level for 3 hours a day in front of a computer. It's not what happens in the classroom, nor do we want that to be happening at home. Thanks. I just provided one small sample of a grade 4 schedule that helps give you an idea of that balance. We want students to be working on their ST Math and Lexia, as all of the schools are right now, to keep those skills intact. Those are 2 already personalized learning platforms, so that the work the students are doing, either in ST or Lexia, is totally at their own level and paced accordingly for them. We want kids to be able to take movement breaks. We've all emphasized throughout all of these weeks the importance of being outside whenever possible and doing that in a safe way. Participating in activities that our specialists are providing, and in our Hannah website, we have all the specialist teachers with their own setup so that children can access those, as well as activities that are folded into grade level specific Google Classrooms. Thank you, Deborah. So our successes, there's a lot to talk about here, and a lot that my colleagues have already touched upon. Our attendance rates just increased from the first couple of weeks. Student engagement with Google Classroom continues to increase. I have not been able to shut off the notifications. I really know I should for my own mental health, but I just can't help it. I have access to see all of those wonderful assignments that children are posting, and I just love to see their response to all the assignments and all of the feedback that teachers are continuing to provide. It's that high level of engagement that we continue to focus on. Virtual Spirit Days are keeping our school spirit alive. Mr. Harwood has provided a virtual spirit schedule for every week since we have been out of school. He also provides a video for the entire third grade team that goes along with those spirit days, but the entire school participates in daily spirit activities to keep us all engaged together and unified. We have had 2 rounds now of grade level parent forums where we have invited all of the parents in to have live conversation with myself, the classroom teachers, the school adjustment counselor, all of our specialists, and Mr. Wood, who is our STEAM teacher, but he also doubles as our amazing Hannah on-the-spot technology expert, and he has also given a lot of support to all of our teachers on the use of the tools for all of their classrooms. So he's been right there in those grade level parent forums to provide tech support as well. We really wanted to have those grade level parent forums just to stay connected as we want for all of our children. We know the best part of all of our days is when we pop into those Google meetings and see all of their beautiful faces. I feel the same way when I see all of the beautiful faces of all of our families there together, knowing that we are all in this together. Someone has said we may all be in the same storm together, but not necessarily in quite the same boat. So we all appreciate the differences between families, all their individual challenges, and the forums have provided a way for teachers to have live time communication with parents, but also for parent to share good ideas, express frustration, and also find solutions together. And Dr. Trocheck and Dr. Filarity have been participating in those as well, so we're grateful for that support. Also, a huge shout out to the IT department for getting the Chromebooks up and running for us to be able to distribute to students whose home do not have a device for them to use, so we're very grateful for all of that enabling the distribution. Some of the challenges that we have faced, as everyone has said, there is some inconsistency at times with students engaging in live class sessions, and there's a myriad of different reasons for that. Internet connectivity still poses a challenge for some families, and again, just getting through to access the free Wi-Fi, making connections to get that to happen effectively has been something we've worked with families on a case-by-case basis to help get them access to free Wi-Fi. And families are in need of support to effectively organize the meetings and assignments for multiple students across grade levels in schools. I want to mention on this slide that we've received some really excellent support from Officer Fiore, who is one of the school adjustment counselors in the district. He's worked directly with myself and our school adjustment counselor to help find creative ways to support families to make sure that they know about the food distribution and to make sure that our students are safe and well. And that's been very helpful in overcoming a lot of these challenges. 2 exciting things that have gone on that I did not share video clips of, but I wanted to mention that have been really exciting. Every year we have a STEAM Expo, not unlike all of the other schools. And Mr. Wood has kept that going and enabling children to share their projects wherever they were in the process. And, you know, one benefit that I've found to doing those sessions individually and in the Google Meet format is that I can really take the time to savor every project, to hear the unique points the children are making, to interact and ask lots of questions. And there's also a piece that I think the students are appreciating, is that they really get to more closely investigate their peers' projects as well. So it's been pretty exciting. Tracking student contact. As every school has talked, we have a system where all the teachers are tracking attendance as well as the interaction with the Google assignments. And teachers are noting any students with inconsistent attendance at class or in those Google assignments. And then we are coming together to make phone calls, emails, to connect with families to make sure they have everything they need to help their child be successful. We've had an awful lot of Google Meet sessions with parents to work through any remote challenges that they may have. Just a couple of pictures up here and examples of projects. All of our grade levels are moving forward with their PBL units for the springtime. That was something we heard the commissioner talk about very early on in remote learning, that he wanted to see deeper learning experiences and project-based learning continue on, authentic learning experiences. Our grade 4 students are currently preparing research on US landmarks and working on creating postcards, which they're going to be sending out to faculty that highlight points of interest on the landmark they're working on. Meetings across all the grade levels are also working on incorporating the zones of regulation. So, and this is certainly not unique to Hannah. All across the district, our children are very fortunate to have had a real focus on social emotional learning, identifying what it means to be a successfully self-regulated human being. And we've incorporated all of that into our morning meetings, class meetings, so that students know that all their feelings right now are okay. They're all welcome. They're all changing all the time, as are all the adult feelings throughout the pandemic. And so again, that has been something that we've folded in. There is one example of a STEAM project up in the corner there, a bird nest challenge, a STEAM challenge that asks the kids to go outside to create a bird's nest and think about what type of bird might be using it. And then I have another friend who has participated in a different kind of STEAM challenge related to measurement. So just a couple of student samples there.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Montevecchi. And now on to North Beverly with Mrs. Brown.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight. Like the previous the principals talked about, a lot of the same things across the different schools. So I'm going to speak just quickly about a few things that they're also doing that they might not have spoken about tonight. If you look on our first slide, it talks about the different phases. And like everyone else, we started with the district website and enrichment activities. And then in phase 2, moved to further learning and some more enrichment with teacher-presented material and pre-recorded video lessons, and held classroom meetings weekly. And I think from there, the special educators started within the district really doing some more interactive lessons with their students. And that really brought the discussion to our faculty as a whole in terms of really looking at small group instruction and what that could look like for kids, and how amazing that was, sitting in on the activities and lessons of the special educators. And so we took that on last week and started doing small group instruction, as well as some therapeutic supports during that time, as well as specific classroom assignments and materials that were targeted for specific students and whatever their needs were. So kind of differentiated instruction. So as we move into phase 4, we're going to continue that work. The teachers, we ask them to go slow and do it well, and they jump in 100% and go fast and do it well. So we're doing a lot more of that this week and moving forward, thinking about the balance, again, not just of screen time and away from screen time in real life, but also the balance in now doing interactive lessons with students and the balance of kind of the assignments and playlists. So Dr. Lay, on the next slide, you can see just kind of a sample of a playlist or checklist for grade 4 and grade 2. And so thinking about these when we're doing a whole lot of interactive lessons that are going on, kind of having the balance with these as well. And you can kind of see, you know, a variety of different assignments in 4th grade, from a metric scavenger hunt and math learning through Zern to, you know, some work in 2nd grade on specific foundations videos for their students, fluency practice, etc. This is an example of one of the activities the students had in a geometry unit in 4th grade, and I was highlighting 4th graders because they're leaving us kind of in a different way this year, so I wanted to highlight their pictures. But this was just an assignment that they had to create and kind of was interesting for them with various information from the geometry unit. Our successes, like the others, is a high level of engagement, especially we have found in the small group lessons. The students really like that interactive piece with the teachers. And then just really, really looking at the creative part of fun, engaging learning for students in different ways, from virtual field trips. I had a teacher have everyone on. They had done a virtual cooking class using measurement and had a great time in 4th grade doing that, scavenger hunts, etc. And kind of looking at strong contact with families throughout this entire process, really, really looking and reaching out to families in a variety of different ways, from surveys and personal contact, working with parents individually that were struggling with, or their students were struggling with getting on to the remote learning. So those have been amazing experiences. And then some of our challenges are the same as the others. Consistency for some students in completing assignments, and then just in general that struggle with families that are doing, you know, having multiple students using devices. Here's an example of 4th grade Genius projects. These were projects students got to choose kind of what they were interested in and learning about and sharing that. So we have a couple examples here, the Eiffel Tower in Paris and sewing. And then our last page is just we kind of did a community outreach project. It was a thank you to nurses and healthcare workers. So this is an example of one of the slides of all the students created different things and messages and shared them, and we put them in a Google slide presentation that went to, we have several staff members that have spouses or family members that were nurses and shared this with them. So it was a nice community project for everyone to do. So it's been an amazing run for the last 7 weeks, and we're looking forward to the next 7.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. As that is our last elementary school, and we're going to be transitioning over to the middle school. But I think you can just see, I mean, the amount of work that has come together. We're only talking about 7 weeks, and that was the planning, the lessons, the student learning. And so it has been just nonstop. This is work that normally would have probably taken months to plan. And it's just amazing what people have accomplished in 7 weeks. And I think you'll see that's going to continue as we look at both the middle school and the high school. I know we're having a few technical difficulties, which is ironic considering that this is a remote learning segment, but we will make sure that the whole presentation is available on the website so that you can look at any of the links that weren't able to load tonight. And so now I'd like to introduce Mr. Posca to talk about the middle school.
Hey, thank you very much. First of all, I think we got to acknowledge the MVP of the remote learning of this presentation tonight is Dr. Lay, for being the person who keeps sliding up these slides. So thank you, Dr. Lay, for doing that for us and preventing even more technical difficulties. I appreciate that. As you've heard other people say, I think, you know, I'm kind of a little bit embarrassed to be here at this time because I'm one of 130 middle school staff who are making this work right now. And I think that we should all be in this screen together. And that includes the tremendous leadership that we've gotten from Mr. Conant. I'm glad he could be here this evening, along with my other assistant principals, Ms. Twombly, Ms. Pasquarelli, and Ms. Norton. It's taken all of us to get to this place, and because of them, and particularly the teachers, they've done great. I think, as we go through these things, and I will try to be brief, every team has been a little bit different in how they've done a little things, and we've tried to provide them the flexibility. The communications they've had with the parents, it has been, one of the, really significant aspects of this whole process. And we've tried to really work with the families and work with the students to individualize and personalize this whole experience. You've seen different examples of some of those at the elementary school. And if we can just have a quick example of what a student's schedule would look like here at the middle school, you can see it's somewhat similar. I think there's choice involved here. We have office hours built into the schedule, plenty of Google Meet times as well. And I think much like you saw earlier, you're seeing an opportunity for students to have some choice in their learning and have an opportunity to, really important, engage with different aspects of learning. And, I think you can see that throughout this schedule here this happens to be a grade 6 schedule. You can see not only is there math science involved, but there's also some special ed piece involved. There are office hours put in there. The counselors are involved. So overall, you can see a lot of work going in there, and that includes an opportunity to participate in our global apps choices as well. Much like you heard about the choice boards at the elementary school, we have choice boards in place at the middle school, and we really just think it's important that students try to engage in something that they're interested in, and that really came from the direction of the commissioner's office about what they want students to participate in the 2 to 3 hours of instruction that they recommend to get each day. So kind of just a brief overview of those schedules there at the middle school for grade 6. Yep, thank you. Again, the challenges are the challenges. I think we've heard that there. It really is that balance in the engagement piece. And I think you've heard a lot of the elementary teachers speak very, very accurately about what those challenges are, and those are the same at the middle school. But, and again, particularly with the accountability piece, and, we're working not only, hopefully we get some more guidance from the commissioner's office later this week, and we'll have a kind of a consistent plan to lay out at all 3 levels of the district to share with students and staff and parents about what that would look like going forward. The successes are, you've heard them all already. The amount of collaboration, I think it really has made some stronger connections between some teachers and students. When I go into some of these meetings, I'm amazed at not only the work that our teachers are doing, but the counselors and the emotional support they're providing, not only our students, but our staff and our families as they engage with this work. We're on track to really go into this phase 4, as Dr. Flaherty talked about before. We're really in a good position to kind of roll right into that because of the work that we've already done this going forward. The amount of connectivity that we've had on a regular basis with students, we've talked about, let's get, the work is one thing. We need to make sure those families know both who's participating in work and who's not participating in work. But we really want to get some eyes and ears on our students. So the participation in the meetings, in the email that we've had with students has been so very, very important. And we're having teams document that on a regular basis so we can then go into the other phase of this, which is reaching out to those families to making sure we can support them in what they need at home. Our top priority is to keep them engaged throughout this whole process. I think, when you get a chance, you can look at this, tracking. This just happens to be one team's way of tracking how students are doing. It's just an internal document, and how we also calculate not only who's, participating in the work and engaging in the work, but also kind of the concerns at home and what we have to do to support them at home. I think you heard Ms. Montevecchi talk about Officer Fury. Not only has Officer Fury been involved, but so has Officer Meza, our 2 school resource officers. They've been readily available for us when we have concerns to go out and do some well-being checks of our students and families. So they are also an active participants of our team throughout the district K to 12. So certainly want to make sure they get mentioned for all the work that they do. Again, you get a chance to look at this on your time. When we talk about the highlights here, I felt like, what one of my children do I like best? I mean, there's so many things to share out about what's going on a regular basis and the positives. And, we could have talked about, I have a grade 5 faction, the Mathy bunch, they call themselves, and how they're rolling out new ideas to students. My grade 8 teachers that does a weekly meeting and a weekly video for their students. We started this slide, and you saw a picture of our cult hero, Mr. Melanson, and all the videos and songs that he's done. So all the work that they've done on a regular basis has been great. Those examples that I have there, we have a pandemic project that's going on in grade 8 that has a PBL flavor to it, and it's linked right to the pandemic to kind of learn a little bit about what's going on and then kind of reflect upon how the impact is on our community. So this is something that the team came up with. Again, students are engaging in the work in a different manner. Culminating with possibly a time capsule or something else to, I don't want to say commemorate, but to kind of remember what this might be about many years from now. So lots of different things going on a regular basis. And that includes, I think we saw something about some genius projects in grade 4. We have some passion projects going on in grade 5. Very similar idea where students get to choose and pick what it is they're interested in. We are also very happy about our Global Apps Choice Board. I think it really gives, as I talked about before, students the opportunity to choose what it is they want to do. The commissioner was very adamant when this whole pandemic started about making sure students had the opportunity to get out of the house, to engage in things that are healthy for them, that they're passionate about. And again, in many ways, we want to take some pressures off the parents. The parents have done an unbelievable job throughout this, and it's the balancing act that they're doing at home and now trying to support their students has been significant. So the Global App Choice Board is meant to help support them and give them the choices of what they may want their child to engage in outside the core content subjects that we're asking them to engage in on a regular basis. So our staff has done a great job putting some choices in for that, for our students to choose from 5 to 8. And as we talked about, we're in pretty good shape. The message that we consistently have told staff when we started this process is down the bottom. We've talked about the KISS method. Keep it simple, silly. When you're going through this work, it's easy to get overwhelmed. So less is more. When you're talking about a standard, just focus on that standard and continue to work with that standard before you move forward. And again, with everything, and I know the elementary principals have said this as well, we need to be totally flexible throughout this whole process. So those have been some consistent messages that we've shared with our staff, we share with our students, that we share with our families. And, as Ms. Brown said, we're ready for these next 7 weeks as well. We know it's going to be a challenge, but because of the work that we've done previously, we feel as though we're in a good spot to take on all the work that still needs to be done and end the year strongly.
Thank you, Mr. Posca. And now Mrs. Taylor will do the high school.
Good evening, everybody. I apologize for not showing my face, but here's one of the disadvantages of remote learning. I think I've burnt out my computer and it shut off like 5 times, and I'm on my husband's desktop here. So thank you for being patient, and I would show my face if he had a camera here. Anyways, I want to echo a lot of things, but I think what Mr. Posca said is that I think we really need to give credit to the Beverly Public Schools community, because the teachers have done a fantastic job of rising to this challenge, of being very flexible and creative in what they're doing. And behind the scenes people, we know about our the food service workers that have been delivering, giving out lunches, but our custodians are in the building. building. Our secretaries are working behind the scenes, maybe remotely, but they're helping us. And I have to give a shout out to my administrative team, Mr. Thomas, Ms. Ferrara, Mr. Coder, Mr. Keefe, who've stepped up in so many different ways. So there's a lot of people who deserve a lot of credit. It's really the whole community that's been doing a lot. Beverly High School's schedule is much more self-directed for the student. The immediate feedback that we got from students, parents, and, to be frank, teachers, is that a set schedule would be difficult because people were having problems with childcare, or a student who had to get brothers and sisters started, or people sharing 1 or 2 computers. So it's far more self-directed. What does happen, and let me, let's take from our 9th to our 11th graders. Most students have 8 classes. And so what we first learned is that we needed to make sure we are at least telling students early in the week what their weekly schedule would be for each class. And those students don't follow a Panther Pride Day per se as far as the time blocks, but it is helpful for the teachers, because once it was determined that a school day should be half of what it was traditionally, teachers use the Panther Pride calendar to determine how much instructional time they'll do each week. So if your class meets 3 times a week, that's 135 minutes. And if your class meets twice a week, that's 90 minutes. Teachers also have posted office hours where teachers are accessible for students, and students can expect a response in a timely manner. Our teachers are using Google Meets for classroom instruction, and sometimes for the office hours as well. So that's worked out pretty well. I think if, God forbid, we have to do this again, we probably would provide a little more structure in the day, because I think we could give people a heads up and work around that as far as time span. But right now, it seems to be working. There has been some concerns about sometimes Google Meets meeting around the same time, but again, the teachers are pretty flexible about that and can meet with students individually or in smaller groups as well. Our challenges. I would echo what everyone else says. I think our first challenge was the volume of communication for all parties. Everybody, teachers, parents, students, were getting more emails in their life than they've ever seen before. A lot of volume of it. That's why we determined that we needed to send out 1 weekly email that summarized what was going to happen for the week, instead of little individual explanations from teachers. That's been helpful. What we also found is that when teachers send out emails in Aspen, that for parents especially, but and a little bit for kids, but they weren't labeled in a certain way, so parents had to open up every single one to find out which one's from the math teacher and which one's from the English teacher. So we've done some more formal protocols of that. Everybody says remote learning is harder. Obviously, the personal touch is different. That makes it harder. But I think really, I thought about this a lot in my own experience, is that everyone, the instructors and the students, are all reading and writing more than before. Because if you think about it, something a teacher could say verbally in the classroom now is written in a narrative form as instructions for the assignment. And then the students got to open that up and read that and then respond by again writing. So I think people are reading, especially nonfiction, directions and explanations, and people are writing directions and explanations and examples back and forth. So I think the volume of work is heavier, and the amount of email communication really just exploded. We have a concern about accessibility. I think the district really has done a wonderful job of getting technology into the hands of students. When we first opened up We probably distributed about 30 laptops to people who did not have them. And now the tech department is distributing laptops to students who their computers died or the screen got cracked. So we've always made sure we can get technology in students' hands. That doesn't always help with internet accessibility. That is the problem of the future that we need to take a look at if we have to do this. The homework balance for everybody is tough. I think especially when we first started, that's the concerns we had from parents. I can't, make sure my student is doing all the work from their class, and then I have other children I need to pay attention to, plus I have to work from home. So by, again, making sure we cut down on our communication, sending out a weekly agenda so parents could plan around it, that's been much more helpful. And then clarification about grades. The high school students and parents are concerned about grades and college admissions. And they're also, especially for the senior class, worried about events. So clarification about those sort of things is another issue that we have. Well, here are our successes. I think, and you've seen this across the board, very innovative and adaptable practices from teachers. Our district has had an advantage in that we have developed a strong technology base right from the beginning, and the high school certainly is the most fortunate because we've had the longest one with the one-to-one laptop opportunity, and we have instructors that know how to use the technology tools, so the learning curve was less as far as how to use it, how to use it when you don't have the students in the classroom was a new challenge, but we had an advantage that a lot of other districts don't have. And the other thing I would say has less to do with technology and more to do with the spirit of our teachers and about being very adaptable. Not only getting remote learning up and running fairly quickly, but also as we're moving along, realizing this doesn't work. And so we got to change our practice, or I found a new platform, so let's add to that. I think the other success for us has been student leadership. Our students have really stepped up in many different ways. I suspect at home they're probably helping parents with technology, but what I've seen here in relation to the school is that the students have given us feedback. They've given us a voice. They've talked about their concerns. Certainly, I've been working with class officers, with the senior class officers, with the junior class officers, with different organizations that want to do different remote learning or want to make future plans for what they'd like to do. And I've relied on especially my senior leaders, and Elise and Ibrahim are one of two of them, not one, are two of them, along with the, again, class officers, student council representatives, climate committee senior members, and my site council senior members on advice about student concerns and about what students need. I think the other thing all of us have seen as administrators is students are reaching out to us and when they have a concern with a teacher and instruction and clarity about that. And what we've been able to do is the student reaches out to us. I've talked to a lot of kids on the phone. I say, what exactly is going on? What is your concern? And get a chance to speak to the teacher. And this is this adaptable part. Once the teachers get some feedback, they adjust and have change their practice if it's confusing to students or if students need more structure or more clarity. So really, student voice has been very strong during this remote learning experience. Again, and I think the other principals have said this to you, teachers are starting to think of new ways to deliver instruction and new ways to innovate in the classroom, and we're seeing a lot of experimentation. And I did send a survey to my faculty early on before April 6th, and I said, well, what's the bright side on this? And that was the common theme. I'm going to be teaching differently than I have before, and I have new ideas about how to teach. I put two other things here which are really future planning, and the reason why I put that down in successes is I feel really good that with our guidance, administration, and secretarial staff, we've been able to plan ahead. So we finished our student schedule choices for next year. We're right on schedule for getting our schedule set up. We didn't let that we didn't fall behind because of the distant learning. And the same thing with students who are interested in participating in Essex Tech. We were concerned about would that fall through as far as getting students involved and parents interested, and we're able to do that. There's a lot of things that right now, normally we would be getting ready for next year, and we are on target for that. And that's thanks to the work with people have found innovative ways to do that remotely as well. Engagement. I'm not going to read this to you, but here's a couple of things. We've gotten really nice feedback from parents about how much the teachers have worked at connection. And Matt said the same thing. What we're saying is it's connections first. It is frustrating not to, cover your lesson plan the way you used to, but let's first get the students connected, and then we can move on. And teachers really rose to that. I included a link for a video that we had sent out a couple of weeks ago to connect with our students and to let them know that we're thinking of them. I don't think you necessarily have to play it, but it was nicely done. And again, what was fun about it is, it was a teacher's to be fair, we modeled it after the middle school. The middle school did it first. And then our media teacher and our teachers all did the recordings, and it was put together really well. And, it really, I think, sort of made an impression on the students that your teachers are here and they care about you. A little bit more about engagement. We can go to the next slide. We are measuring student participation engagement by taking a look at our data on sign-ins for Moodle, which is our main platform to access curriculum, and also Google Classroom. So some teachers have all the materials just on Moodle, and other teachers, they have a Moodle page where the link to Google Classroom is. We use Moodle as our general platform, but we let teachers build off and use Google Classroom. So we have been looking at the numbers of when students have signed in and the number of students that have. We have over 90%, more than 1,200 students have been engaged in remote learning. Now, there is a caveat here. We do have a concern that we have students that are engaged in remote learning. Are they engaged in all 7 or 8 of their classes? That's a variation there. So we're chasing students down for a class or 2, but we pretty much seen that 90% of our students are on Moodle in a teacher's classroom. There's a lot of direct communication with students via email, via video, phone, and weekly with parents. And the teachers and student leaders also use social media quite a bit to communicate: Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. I have to give a shout out to both our guidance and school adjustment counselors. They met fairly early when we started this and came up with a protocol and a format, and Mark Thomas meets with them regularly to see how we were doing, because we were concerned about our students' social and emotional health. I think one of the things on Beverly Keeps Learning site is the school adjustment counselors. We talked a little bit, and actually this came out of a school committee meeting about the stress on parents. And so the school adjustment counselors have created a website called Panther Cares, which is advice for parents about stress relief and organization. Guidance has really stepped up with keeping up the regular business of guidance going. So college transcripts are going out, scholarship applications are being collected, schedules for next year, as I said, are all set to go, all set to get developed. Advanced placement testing's going on, so they've really kept everything on track. I should say about scholarships that because that's a community connection as well. We have over, I believe it's 250 scholarships that students apply for. And we work with many different communities and families that have done scholarships in behalf of an organization or in memory of an individual. And there's a committee of community members and staff members that meet to determine what students receive the scholarships. So they're going to be meeting socially distant, but they have to come at the school because they have piles and piles of papers to go through. So they're probably going to be in the cafeteria separated from each other. Julie Ferrara will help coordinate that, and they'll be making the decision on the scholarships. So we should have scholarship announcements about the time we traditionally do. We won't have a scholarship night per se, but that's our goal. Anything especially senior events, we're trying to stick to the timeline and meet that. So we'll still be able to be giving scholarships out to our students. Our kids for next year we can start planning their schedule. The advanced placement students will be taking tests from home, and both our guidance counselors have worked really hard on this. Our clubs and extracurricular activities have tried as well. Our OTC will be having an end of the year get together. The Music and Performing Arts will. The National Honor Society will induct new members virtually. And Stage Right has made connections with the students as well. And those are just a few. We've kept up our Panther Students of the Month, which is we make sure that we recognize a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior who has been a Panther citizen in the sense of either academics or school spirit. And we intend to have our underclassmen awards, which we usually have in June. We're still going to have that as well. It will be virtual. So we're trying to keep some of our normal extracurricular activities as a part of the school. I asked teachers at a faculty meeting just last week, what are you doing for engagement? Because the staff had said, can we talk about engagement and how we keep kids going and everything? And all the teachers responded. I just picked a random cross section of responses. So choice is one thing, surveying and having student forums is another. The physics teachers talking about creating labs that aren't hands-on but are simulations. Our German teacher is having the kids talk to a school in Germany. They talk about sending positive emails, and there's been a lot of talk about the format of the lessons, that they have to be quick, they have to be consistent, that there's a structure so that kids know what that looks like. So I mean, that's just a few, but I thought I wanted to give you a few samples of that. And then the next slide is I just want to give you an idea of some lessons. And this is just a few. Down at the bottom there, Mary Biggis has used, we're finding all kinds of lovely apps. So we used Padlet, and she was teaching iambic pentameter to students, and they had to create their own sentences of iambic pentameter. Our Accomplish program, they usually have a cafe. They sell bagels. We can't sell bagels. I guess we can do it virtually, and we can virtually eat them. But really, it was meant for kids to learn some math skills, some customer interaction skills. So they are holding virtual Accomplish Cafe, where teachers are invited to come and talk about what they're doing with the students. One of my science teachers, Matt Bond, had an epidemiologist come to speak to the honors chemistry class about COVID-19. Laura Collins bumped into a BHS grad over there on those two screens, Michaela Bishop, who was in school. I directed her in some school plays, and she's an actress, and she played Juliet and answered interview questions from the class. And there's our own Miss Fecto up there, who played the nurse, who also answered some questions and spoke to Juliet. The Instagram accounts there, the art department has Create BHS, where kids are submitting their artwork. One of the really fun assignments, I don't think it's necessarily there in those pictures, but something I never heard of called knolling, where you take a collection and create a design with it. So the kids, we've had examples of students using their shoes in a design, or using art supplies in a design. It's been really kind of fun to see, and those are all over that Instagram account. There's Cooking with Quinlan. What's Cooking with Quinlan? Mary Jane Quinlan, one of our cooking teachers, gives out recipes, talks about cooking. And then also it talks about kids. There's one of our seniors who was reporting back to her about the cooking he's doing at home. And up at the top, I gave an example of a lesson plan. This is from Megan Sudak on personal finance. And again, you can see there's standards and there's goals, and the kids know what the overall point of the lesson would be. Future planning, we really have had a lot of discussion about, what we would standardize or tweak and recreate if we have to do remote learning again. And then, of course, the other question was, if we're back at school, what do we take from this? What kind of instructional models? And we also are concerned about developing good assessments for any student learning gaps. So that's some of the conversations we're starting to have departmentally. We're considering whether we probably could do an online summer school. Whether it's needed is still up in the air, but that's another thing that we'll plan for. And we have plans for virtual freshman orientation, so we can do outreach if we have to virtually. Obviously, in person, in the building will be better, but we're making sure we're ready to do it either way.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. And she's being humble. She didn't tell you that if you're on Instagram, you can follow her and get her poem of the day, which is a treat once a day to listen to.
Well, thank you.
Betty read her poetry to all of her students. I think that you can see that we definitely lived up to our committee name today. We were completely full with curriculum, instruction, and student life, and that we've really had a little bit earlier than you normally would have, but this was definitely a showcase of learning that looks at the span of time that we've been doing remote learning. And so if there are any questions, the principals can take those before we go to our last item on the agenda.
I just want to interject. I want to say thank you to all our leaders. That was so impressive. And I know the teachers are doing a phenomenal job, and seeing it all encompassed in one presentation was just mind-blowing, to say the least. It's great job. And I wonder, Dr. Flaherty, if you could answer as we're midway through right now our remote learning time, are there any plans to do some type of formal survey to parents just to get their feedback on what they love, what they maybe want to see more of as we kind of go into the second half of our remote learning time?
Yep, great question, Ms. Freddie. We're actually just coming to the close. We hope by Friday, we're actually going to be sending a survey out to staff, parents, and students to get their input on how remote learning has been going, what they might like to see changed, or what could be more supportive, so that if we move to having to do this in any format next year, that we can incorporate some of that feedback. So those should be, our goal is to send them out for Friday and to give a week till the following Friday to have them returned. But we'll be sending it to all staff, parents, and students. We're even trying to get the survey tweaked for our littles. So we're going to even do our little ones from the elementary school.
That's great. Thank you so much. And again, thank you to all of you. I feel like I'm on the Brady Bunch right now, looking at everyone. But that was a fantastic presentation. And Dr. Flaherty, I'll turn it back over to you to address the last item on our agenda.
Okay. And are there any other questions before we move forward? And you heard a little bit in some of it. I just wanted to share with you, I know that the news, we kind of all knew that the governor's announcement was coming, that school would be closed till the end of the year, but I don't think any of us really wanted to face it until we actually heard the words. And it still felt like a gut punch when it came. And especially, we knew we could handle all the learning pieces, but we were so saddened about all the milestones and the celebrations that many of our students would not be able to celebrate in a traditional way. So I know and wanted to share with you that we have put committees together with the elementary principals to be looking at our fourth grade celebrations. There is a middle school committee that's looking at the middle school, and the high school, who has the shortest time frame because theirs comes sooner with the culmination with graduation. They've been working on that and working with the student leaders at the high school as well. And while middle school and elementary, they're in the planning stages, I know that the high school has some decisions made, and I think Mrs. Taylor sent a Connect Ed out to senior parents and students earlier today, and I didn't know if she just wanted to address what she put in her communication so that it's kind of out in the broader community as well.
Yes, I'll be glad to. I wish I had it all in front of me, but I think I can go through things. One of our, first of all, I have to say that our senior class officers have really been very helpful with this, reaching out to the student body and telling us the point of view. I should mention Avery Bauer, Emma Bouquet, Lilani Jones, and Ella Colton. Those are the 4 officers. And they reached out to us early. Our first meeting was, I think, the second week in March. I met with a larger group of student leaders, student council. Student council's been, senior student council members have met with us a couple of times, and some committee members. And we've also had 2 general meetings that any members of the senior class could join us in as well. So, obviously what the students want are all the traditions and events of senior week that we've had. And they worked really hard with us. First of all, asking questions like all that what if, and and they were very mature dealing with if this happens, then this. But that, I didn't always have definitive answers for them. It was more like, well, we'll wait and see. What we're trying to replicate the senior schedule. Now, they didn't do reach internships, so they're going to be having classes till May 22nd. And then that next week is traditionally senior week, which would be some traditions and some follow-ups on classes and exams. We're not having students take exams, but if they need to do any makeup work or close out on any of their classes, they would do that. Usually there's a dress-up week where we have a theme day. Then the following week, aside from the Reach internship and the Reach Fair, we have events like Scholarship Night, Awards Morning, and also Baccalaureate and the prom, and then culminating with graduation. So a couple of things about that. The seniors sent out a survey to the senior class. There's, I think, 287 members of the class, 157 responded to the survey, asking them, which events they would prefer, knowing that some things will be virtual or are not the same as before. So the seniors, I was surprised, resoundingly were not interested in doing a virtual senior theme week. They do not want to do that. One of the things that they are very interested in is they want to hear from their teachers. They would like to share memories of, their years at Beverly High School. They definitely want a regular traditional graduation, and I think that's clear from parents as well. Once we started talking about what's possible and what we can do, the notice that I gave out today outlined a few things. I should also say that the community has been very great with reaching out with not only suggestions, but offers of help, which has been wonderful. So we wanted to make sure there was a few visible signs. So you should see banners up by the end of the week on Cabot Street congratulating our class and from the front of the school building. The Institution for Savings, we have a branch of that bank in our school. It's part of our banking program, has offered to pay for lawn signs with student portraits on them. They're currently getting collected and printed, and we have the staff wanted to really get in on that, so we're going to have sort of a surprise, but the staff will be helping with getting those signs into the right hands. And then we're there's going to be Salem Evening News will do an edition tribute to the class. I think Beverly Citizen as well. The North Shore Chamber of Commerce every year honors the top 5% in every class. So that will happen as well, just not the banquet. So you're going to see some visible congratulations to students. Dan Keefe is going to be recognizing senior student athletes on the Twitter account. But we did go over some of the events that are planned. So the senior awards will happen, but it will be virtual. We're going to have teachers record who they gave an award to and why, so kids can hear the teacher's speeches on them. The scholarships will be first mailed out as letters to the recipients, and then we'll publish a list of the students and the scholarships that they received. Baccalaureate is going to take advantage of the two events or two things that students would like to happen in the survey. We're going to invite students to come and perform. That's usually baccalaureate kids read poems or sing a song or do anything to commemorate their 4 years at Beverly High School. So we're going to invite students to do that. But because they've also asked to hear from teachers, we're going to ask teachers to speak to the class. And we're also going to compile some video and some pictures of memories of their 4 years. So that'll be our baccalaureate. It'll be virtual, and we'll make sure it's accessible for everybody to receive it. We just got to, probably BevCam can help us, but make sure people can get there. So scholarship night, I did that. I got to make sure I got everything. Senior awards, scholarship night. The prom, what the class decided to do is to defer it. They have a tentative August date. The venue that they had chosen is the State Room in Boston. One of the things with the venues is that they're waiting to see what Governor Baker says, so they won't let people cancel their venues. They will let us defer a date, so that's what the senior class is doing at this point. And if early August is not possible, I think they'll work for another deferral. They do want to plan lots of other events for class once there's social distancing is removed and people can meet. And I think one of the things that the class has worked really hard to do, both during their years to raise money, but they should be able to, when they graduate, have an alumna fund that would have some cash so that they could do some more events to reconnect with the class. And that's what the seniors are planning on. Once our students graduate, the class treasury is removed from the Beverly Public Schools funds and is put in a class of 2020 bank account with the class officers' names on it. So they're keeping track of what they think that will be, and they'll be using it for the class for other events so the class can get together socially. Of course, the big thing is graduation. And there's the concern is, what are the prescriptions on social distancing in large groups? We have been sort of deferring making a decision as long as we can, in the hope that perhaps we can have a traditional graduation. We're looking at the original date that we were planning all along. We're hoping that we're keeping our vendors for the chairs and the stage and the sound system sort of on hold in case that happens. But again, looking at the way things sometimes happen here, if we still can't allow large group gatherings, we have come up with a plan to have a graduation. Part of it will be virtual, probably the speeches. But we think we have a way to get, at least in small groups, our students in the building, in their cap and gowns, with their families, to receive their diploma and take some family pictures in the building. We've been working out the logistics of that, and we're hopeful that will happen. It won't be the same for so many reasons. And one of the reasons why it won't be the same is because, the whole group won't be together all together. But as I said, this senior class and these class officers are really dedicated to finding other events that they're going to create for their class later on. One of the things they would like to do, and the school will be glad to do it once we are all set, is they want to have another virtual class day at Beverly High School. They'd like to go through their class schedule one more time and say hi to the kids that were in their class and to their teachers. And we could do that, hopefully in the summertime, and invite them all back in August and have them do that. So there's a lot of plans about getting this class back together again. And we're crossing our fingers about graduation. I feel sad to say this, but we may have to modify it, which I think is going to be very hard for parents and students. We're trying to find a way to get our kids in the building and get them a chance to wear their cap and gowns, and get parents a chance to have graduation pictures in the school grounds. So we have a plan for that. I'm crossing my fingers that maybe things luck out and maybe we can have a traditional graduation. So that's an overview. I can answer questions if you have any.
Mr. Milady?
So thank you very much. So I want to speak for everybody on the committee, but I feel like this particular topic about senior week, I've gotten the most emails about anything in a long time. So
me too.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure. So these are like, obviously these are unprecedented times, and one of the things that's been running through my mind is that this is like the new lost generation, so to speak. So, I know Principal Taylor, you're an English teacher, you probably get the reference, but we have an entire generation of kids that have, all their milestones robbed from them right now. So one of the things that I want to say, like, out of thanks, is like, I appreciate, like, Miss Taylor, you spelled out step by step what are some of the things that you want to do, what you're hoping to accomplish. I think that, one of the things that I've heard from parents is that they want more of like a public acknowledgement about their kids. And it sounds like this is going to happen down Cabot Street and in different ways. So I just to clarify, as a school system, as a community, we're not shutting the door completely on the kids having a graduation, so parents can take the pictures and kids can have that moment on the stage, whatever that looks like, and also on some sort of possible version of a prom. So those are my two, I guess, main questions, things that I've heard most about.
Yes, and so have I. And that's one of the things we really worked for is people didn't want a whole virtual graduation. And we were trying to think, okay, what can we do so that there's some sort of personal connection for the students and to the school. And so we have a plan worked out. There's some logistics to work out because when we can't have all the graduates in the building at the same time. I wanted to make sure that the students have a chance to be in the building. I wanted to make sure the students have a chance to wear their cap and gown and have the diploma in their hands and get it, receive it. And I wanted to give families a chance to take some pictures on that day in that building. So we have a plan for that. I'm hesitant to give you all the details because we haven't worked out all the details. I've consulted with.
And you don't need to. Don't get the details out. I want to put you in a tough spot, but.
Well, I will say we've consulted with Beverly Police, with the Board of Health, with Mayor Cahill and Mike Collins, and we think we can work out the logistics. We're just really, but we're also keeping all the vendors on hold, so that if something happens in June 2nd, we can have graduation. I want us to be setting that up and having our regular graduation. I think you had a lot of emails and so did I. I think it was really tough, I think, for parents that something didn't happen right away. Some of that was I needed to talk to the class officers. And that's why we also did the student survey. And then some of it's more like, how long it takes to get something printed or who we have to coordinate with. But the school right from the beginning was making plans to recognize our seniors.
Great. Thank you. I want to apologize. I don't know what grid pattern you have, but I've had my camera off most of the evening because it's amazing you can put your kids to bed with the camera off. And, spoiler alert. But I wanted to say earlier that, this obviously isn't the school year that we've asked for, but, it's a school year we have. And, from my perspective and from a lot of other people, this administrative team and the teachers that we have, I don't know who else I want to be going through this BS with other than you guys. You guys have gone above and beyond. And I think, for those people who are going to watch this tonight or going to watch it later, every single one of the administrative team has spoken with a sense of compassion and concern for the kids, for the staff, but also for the parents. And I just want to say how much we appreciate all the work that we're doing. Teddy came down, I had the camera off, and he's like, "Oh, this is just like the meetings that I have." So the kids are sadly, maybe getting used to seeing their teachers and administrators like this. So I just want to say thank you. And, especially, just thinking about all those milestones that are going on and, whether it's 4th grade or 8th grade with, Mr. Posca and Mr. Conant, or you're going through Principal Taylor, parents are reaching out, in some cases, probably lashing out because they're concerned for their kids. And, we all know that you care about them. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. I think Ms. Hildreth, did you have a question?
I just kind of wanted to second that as a parent of a senior, that I appreciate what you've done to be creative and think outside the box, because you can't recreate what they should have, but to work towards trying to acknowledge what you can and then be honest about what you can't do is great and refreshing. And you will not make everybody happy. You can't, but thank you for working to just try to acknowledge that for the kids.
Well, I appreciate that. And again, I want to tip my hat to my student leaders, because I think, they asked the right questions and advocated, and they were honest and realistic also.
I think it's important too to recognize how challenging this is, because you're dealing with so much uncertainty. But again, I'll echo what Mr. Milady had said, Ms. Hildreth, that it sounds like you're doing a great job and trying to address what the seniors really want. And, there's no substitution for obviously the real world celebrations they'd be going through. But I think it sounds like you're just doing a fabulous job, just trying to get what we can, considering what's going on.
Thank you.
And Ms. Abel?
Yeah, I echo all of those sentiments, but especially the optimism with keeping those chairs ready for June 2nd, and hope. I think keeping optimism and hope alive is important. Tempering it with reality and the level of uncertainty. I think that's just, icing on the cake. So thank you so much for keeping that front of mind as well.
All right. Any other questions before we entertain a motion to adjourn? I'm not seeing any hands.
Just one comment is I look forward to, the level of detail that we got for the 12th graders. That is one of the most monumental milestones that we're recognizing. I think at the preschool level, moving up to the kindergarten orientations, the 4th graders moving on to the middle school, all of those, and the 8th graders moving up to high school, all those milestones deserve some recognition. And I appreciate all of the elementary principals working together with Dr. Flaherty on making sure that we have some equitable and recognition for those students as well.
And I just want to add in, we didn't forget our littlest littles. Ms. Spolansky is working for the pre-K to K transition as well with the elementary principals.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to thank all of our principals for the time they put in to their presentations tonight. But you can see the pride that they have in their staffs and in in their families and the work that they've done. And I can tell you they're exhausted, and we're just so appreciative. We finally said there's no more words that we can come up with that can express our gratitude and how in awe we are of the work that they're doing to lead their schools through this very difficult time. So I want to thank all of them for their presentations tonight.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely, I echo that. All right. Any other comments? Or I know that this is probably one of the longest CISL meetings I've ever been part of, but it was certainly well worth it.
It was one of the best.
It was one of the best. I loved it. It was great. Thank you to everyone. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Abel. And a second. Thank you, Mr. Mulady. And Laura, do you want to do a roll call vote?
Yeah, I will do, and I'll be more prepared this time.
No, I sprung it on you.
Yeah, no, it's fine. All right, Ms. Ferretti.
Yes.
Oh, can I do it in the same order? Is that?
It doesn't matter. Does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter. Okay. All right. All right. Ms. Abel?
Yes.
Mr. Mulady? Is Mr. Mulady here?
That's a yes. He said yes.
Oh, it was a yes. Okay. Yes. Sorry, I missed you before. Mr. Conant?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Flaherty?
Yes.
Ms. Hildreth?
Yes.
Ms. Sudak?
Yes.
Mr. Giagni, sorry, butchered your name.
Yes.
Okay, great. And Ms. Kirsten?
Yes.
Great. So that's 9-0. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate your help. And
Thank you.
We'll adjourn today's meeting at 9:20 p.m. And I bid everyone a good night. And thank you so much for participating.